Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to round 3 of season 3 of the T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship. We take another step in our journey around the globe, and of course, after the success both last week at Aragon and the week before at the season opener in Suzuka, we take to Italy and we take to one of the most renowned circuits in the world. It's the tights and the twists here at Imola. Myself, Sweeney and Darragh Thacker, alongside me in the commentary booth. There you can see all beautiful 17 turns of it, just under 5 kilometers in terms of track length, and all the way around. Challenge at every turn, Darragh.
Yeah, difficult here, isn't it? I mean, lots of different challenges in every single one down at Aqua Minerale, which we're looking at now. These drivers flowing through. It's difficult to try and make a move, but at the same time, it's difficult to get right. Track limits can be a problem. Going wide in quad corners is going to be dangerous, but there's lots of good overtaking opportunities. Down at turn 1, you'd have to say, the Tamburello game, we might see some overtaking from some of these guys, and the racing we've seen the last couple of weeks shows that realistically we might get moves anywhere.
Absolutely, and of course with the championship being as tight as it is, and with a big contender of Alessandro Ottaviani not taking to the track today, there are plenty of opportunities wide open for each and every single one of these drivers to succeed. Of course, talking of those championship standings, let's take a quick look as to how things are looking here going into round number 3. Gaspar Maracca, after a really consistent run of form, is tied with the Italian at the top of the standings. Of course, you can see 61 points apiece for the pair of them. Pavel Mukkonen, though, again, not a driver that's been able to fight at the top end, every single race, but with consistent runs, podiums, top 5s, I believe a win as well last time out there in P3. Gregor Hijek just in behind, 5 points back in 4th. Marvin Mackenberg, you can see there in P5, but also leading the way in the Cup standings. That's something we'll touch on in just a minute. Basically means he's the highest placed driver who's yet to score a podium inside the top 5. That's remarkable from the German. Then comes Christian Orban and Matej Mikovic, both again tied on in 6th place. Behind that, Christian Newhash, Victor Bernat Rubio, and then behind that comes Shores Oyster to round off what is effectively the top 10. Pascal Jean-Prech, and then of course Bench Farkash tied on 11th. So of course a lot of people actually tied on points, just to show how close and competitive this championship is. Michael Clough, Sven Mackenberg, the second of the two brothers, round off with Stu Neal in the top 15. And then of course going into the next set of drivers all the way down to P28, you can see Vasilij Vlaevic, Kovalevsky, Mukamov and Kozlov, the last of the drivers yet to, of course, that have been able to score points. The rest of them, unfortunately, yet to do so. Still plenty of opportunities over the course of the rest of the season for them to do it. Very close in the championship, Darragh, and of course a golden opportunity here for Gaspar Maracca to open up that gap in the championship to Alessandro Ottaviani and make the most of the Italian drop week.
Yeah, exactly, and I think it's going to be interesting just to see how far he can pull. Of course, he had a very good week last time out at Aragon, and we'll have to see if he can carry that momentum and that form through here to Imola, but it is a very, very different circuit in terms of this little runoff compared to what we saw at Aragon. At the same time, you might not be able to run side-by-side as much, and overtaking is going to be a little bit harder to come by, but I'm sure these guys are going to be able to try and work their way. But at the moment, it's Bench Farkash who's leading the way. Perhaps aren't big, are they? 11 thousandths back to Juhas.
And to be fair, a very tight technical circuit here at Imola. That's not a lot. Of course, Matej Mikovic as well, not too far behind. Of course, we'll head away into a 12-minute qualifying session. Where they'll have obviously 12 minutes to set their best lap time, and that'll decide the grid for race 1. 25 minutes on the clock. We'll reverse the top 10 and we'll go again for another 25-minute showdown here in Imola. That's one way to not take that second chicane down at Villeneuve. But of course, going into qualifying, we have touched on, there are a couple of overtaking opportunities. Straight line speed here, obviously on that pit straight towards the Tamburello. How are we feeling though? How important is qualifying going to be going into race 1 though? Is track position overly vital? It is a tight circuit after all.
Yeah, I mean, we might see drivers really be pleased with their track position post-qualifying, but of course we've got that reverse grid element, don't we? So even if you do quite well qualify well and do well in race 1, you're going to fall back through the field into race 2, so you've got to have that in the back of your mind. So it's 50-50 really, because if you've got the pace, you would like to be out the front early on, try and get the points on the board and then back yourself to work your way through the field. But, I mean, even if you're at the back end of that top 10, if you can try and get to reverse grid hold second, third, you might have a good chance at the win, because of course it is more difficult to overtake. So we're going to have to see how that works out. But getting away for qualifying, it's a very long pit lane here, isn't it? So quite a long exit, but they're going to emerge. We'll have to see. 12 minutes, who comes out on top?
Exactly that. Of course, they all have a shared circuit as such. There's the option in Race Room. You can either do sort of a standard qualifying session, an open circuit, or the closed, where you basically get a rolling start onto your lap, and then you just buy yourself completely. Something we employed for the second qualifying session at Suzuka, but of course the norm is that everyone out there is influenced by everyone else. So that obviously adds extra variables into it. When you're by yourself, there's no assistance of slipstream, there's no sort of following another driver trying to gauge what their lap times are like. But also in this open qualifying, you have the con and the drawback of other people can influence your laps. That can be both a blessing and a burden.
Yeah, it can be, and I think it's going to be difficult. I think Imola is a track that we see is very different to the likes of Aragon, the likes of Interlagos, where you're going to be thinking more of how to curate the overtakes, how to work your way through the field, and being at the front can really help and get you out in the lead, get you some points, but it's not going to get you that race practice really. Of course, you can do all the practice and get the lap times in, but you can't really compare it with just going side by side through the track, through most of this lap. Actually, it can get quite tight. Things like Piratella, you can go side by side through there, but if you've not practiced, it can be quite difficult to get first time, especially if you're going to go side by side through lap 1. It's going to be difficult, but like I said, we're going to have to see. I think these guys are out to race some very, very, very good drivers in this field.
There are. I think the biggest talking point coming into this season, and it's actually the first thing that I said to Rich, before the start of the season, when obviously everything was still in the process. Obviously at the back end of last season, we kind of knew that we were coming back for season 3 as such, but we didn't know who was going to be here. I mean, already in season 1 and season 2, we had the likes of Maris Abdir, Roy Biddulph, Luciano Wittfurt for some of the season, Ben Farkas, obviously the Hungarian contingent of the top end of Race Room esports as such. But then coming into this season, we had the addition, and obviously last season as well, the likes of Pavel Mikonin. Into this season, the likes of Alessandro Ottaviani, the two Mackenbergs. Again, very familiar faces for those that are familiar with the top end level of Race Room, both with the ranked events, the ranked championships, just everything really when it comes to the top end of Race Room. They are the big names that strike out as the ones to watch. Coming into this, I looked at the entry list, I was like, blimey, it's a good field. And then obviously looked at how much Rich is forking out in order to pay some really good prizes to attract these guys. I think we worked out, was it like 1,300 quid worth of prizes? Obviously, thanks to Rich and Pascal for their contributions, and then also Pascal for getting some amazing sponsors on board as well. The likes of Imperial Meat and Fish, Udressy Garage, Marché du Meuble, and of course Team Fondue as well. So a lot goes into this. It's such a high-level championship with such high levels of competition, so much so that the majority of the field is actually tied with someone else on points in the standings.
To see, isn't it? Well, we've got a good championship battle up and down the field, guys trying to fork their way further up, and even as you mentioned, Marvin Mackenberg up in P5, not yet getting a podium, but that consistency is pulling him through. It's giving him really good points in the championship, keeping him up in the fight, and even though he's not getting the podiums, he's using that reverse grid well, just to try and... I'm excited about this championship because, of course, with the ballast as well that we've got, the success ballast, some of the drivers have to, deal with the fact that they've got more weight on the car, and other drivers are going to be able to catch up a little bit because of them, and it's going to work its way out through the season where some drivers can ebb and flow in the championship, and it's going to really come down to the final race.
And that ballast is a huge thing. I mean, again, the listing of it is 25 for first in the championship, 20 for second, third 15, 4 10, and 5 gets 5 kilos. So again, it doesn't sound like a lot. I mean, 5 kilograms, it's like, well, yeah, but these are like, however much these touring cars weigh, probably 900 kilos, or maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, whatever it works out being. So obviously 5 kilos, it's like, well, that's not a lot, is it? But it's almost like a case of, well, yeah, but obviously imagine like holding 5 extra bags of sugar and trying to run or whatever. It's a significant amount of weight. I also always go back to, I remember is Mid-Ohio last season, obviously talking about my toolbox in the back of my car, obviously adding a lot of weight to it, and immediately you felt the effects of that. It felt sluggish, it felt less responsive, and that's obviously inertia, more mass than obviously the car is not going to want to respond because there's more mass to change what it's currently doing, and blah, 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 blah. So the more weight's in the car, obviously it's going to be less responsive, it's going to be a bit sluggish in the power, it's going to be harder to stop because there's going to be more momentum. So obviously the brakes are going to have to work harder. There are so many different things that weight will add, and in a sport where, you know, setups are tuned to, you know, percentages of a degree, decimals of a degree for, you know, tracking and things like that, to say that 25 kilos isn't a lot is a huge sort of underestimation of how prevalent and how changeable ballast can be to the results.
Exactly, and that's what's fantastic about it, to have it for the top 5, because of course they have that little bit of a disadvantage if they're in the top 5 going into the race week, but it allows the guys further back, 6th, 7th, 8th, they've got a lot of the cars they can have. They're going to try and set the best lap time that they can, have the best evening that they can, and if they do better, they might put themselves into the top 5, and then it's roles reverse the next week. So it does make it an exciting championship. Doesn't really let anybody run away with it, as we may see in other championships, both in the virtual world and in the real world. But yeah, it's going to be interesting just to see those with the ballast, to see how they do, and if the likes, you know, your Pascal Jean-Pret, P4 currently, the Swiss driver, not got any ballast on the car. You know, if he can work his way further up the grid, it's going to keep himself in the championship battle further into the season.
Exactly. It's almost like, how well can you do while also avoiding the hindrance? Because it gets to a point where it's like, well, yeah, I'm doing really well, and at some point I might creep myself inside the top 5, and then obviously be harmed by it. Then I, you know, get harmed by the ballast and then drop down a little bit, and that's the ebb and flow that we talk about. It's the drivers, you know, the likes of Mrak, and obviously not Ottaviani today, but Ottaviani generally, like at Aragon, with his sort of okay results despite the fact he was carrying 25 kilos of ballast to the car. Those are going to be the drivers that are going to consistently shine through throughout the entirety of the season. There are going to be a couple that maybe like Pascal Jean-Pret, who of course will have a good round, get himself into the top 5 and be looking really, really good, and then get harmed by the ballast and then drop back a little bit. If you can sort of walk that tightrope, that golden mean between obviously doing good when obviously you're not affected by ballast, but then also doing good enough when you are, that you can then obviously have a better consistent haul of points throughout the whole season.
And it's special about this Super Touring Championship T6. So, you know, it's going to be interesting just to see all the way through, just to see who comes out on top. It's going to be tight, it's going to be exciting. And all the way through the month of March and April, every Sunday, I think we're going to be very interested to see who's going to get the best result they can. We've got 4 minutes left to qualify, though, don't we, now? And it's looking quite high. Bench Farkash currently got the fastest time, but he's only a couple of tenths up, and the like. Fathom Laconin moving himself up at the moment.
Exactly that, and of course final lap times coming in, probably looking at this being your penultimate lap. If, well, actually no, they're running what, 151, so probably not going to be getting another lap. This, if you're starting one now, probably will be actually no, because obviously 151, that's going to be what, 3 minutes. No, maybe not. Maybe I'm just not going to do the maths in my head. We're just going to say this is probably the last couple of laps of qualifying. If you're starting one now, probably is going to end up being your last one of the session, because obviously those unfamiliar with race room, as soon as that time ticks 0, session's done. It doesn't matter if you're on the absolute worldie of a lap that you're going to beat Ben Farkash by 3 seconds. Doesn't matter. Time ticks 0. Session is done, finito. And tough luck, basically. So timing is pivotal. It also means that this final lap, better make sure you bring your A game, because track limits here are a pain. They're very easy to rack up, and it's a technical circuit where there is a lot of time on the table.
Yeah, I mean, for some of these guys, I mean, even if you mess up a little bit, maybe going through the Tamburello chicane, it can really affect all the way down into the Villeneuve chicane. So they've got to make sure that they absolutely nail it when it matters. I mean, there's lots of drivers who I'm sure would like to be a little bit further up, would like to be putting it towards the top 10. And lots of Vladislavjevic, the Serbian driver, down in P14, but there's a lot of drivers who are trying to get ever closer to the top. I mean, these guys coming around the penultimate corner now, they're going to set their times, and they're going to have time for just about one more lap in the session. I mean, if you like it, you could say that the checkered flag effectively flies, if you're thinking about it, when you can finish the lap. It effectively flies when we hit 51, so that everyone who crosses the line after that's it. They're not going to be able to set another lap time here, and that's going to be just about now. So these guys going on their laps are going to be on their final runs, as we see that very brightly coloured pink and blue car coming into the Variante Alpha. Let's see if these guys can improve on their final runs.
Let's see, again, time on the table. Of course, once you do a lot of laps, you'll get into tune with the circuit, you'll find a rhythm, you'll feel a bit more comfortable, and hopefully those tenths of a second will be shaving off. It's a top three for the Hungarians: Benz Farkas, Mate Mikovic, Christian Orban. It's always an observation of mine that the Hungarians in race stream are weirdly really good at qualifying. Not to say that doesn't translate into the race, but whenever we look at the top few lots in qualifying, it's always those three.
Yeah, no, I mean, it just shows how good and consistent they are. I mean, we know the likes of Benz Farkas, Mate Mikovic, they're very, very consistent, even in the racing ranked events with the best drivers on the platform. So they are very much, they have the pedigree, effectively. They know exactly how to get themselves around each and every track the fastest way possible. But let's see, any improvements here from the guys crossing the line? It's going to be a bit of a run to it. Let's see.
Nothing, I don't think, for Mikovic on that particular occasion. We didn't see him change.
Any jumps.
Depends on whether or not Benz Farkas is out there on a lap as well. There we're following again, going into Ravazza. Of course, the first part, then the second. Only 25 seconds left on the clock. Christian Juhász moves his way up in a second, as you'll see. The final order for qualifying. Benz Farkas then takes the pole position. 51.668 was the time to beat. And of course, it was Christian Juhász that took to the front row with him, separating the Hungarian contingent. But it's Mikovic and of course Orban on row 2. Gazprom Rack championship leader P5, despite carrying an extra 25 kilos on his car. Then comes the two Mackenbergs, Marvin and Sven in P6 and 7. Pascal Jean-Pech making up the final of the fourth row. Mariusz Zabdiv finally able to join us in P9. Vadislavljevic rounding off the top 10 ahead of Pavel Mukonin, again carrying 20 kilos of ballast, being 15 being P3 in the championship. Gregor Hujek and Victor Bernat Rubio 12th and 13th. Shores Oyster and Jacek Kowalewski the top 15. Of course, with Michael Clark and Stu Neal just in behind that, and of course the rest of the field all the way down to P28 or so. Into this mini warm-up session, 2 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock. Fantastic lap though late on from Juhász.
Yeah, and he needed it, and he absolutely nailed it in credit to him. He's going to have a fantastic starting position for this race 1, but of course he's going to be reversed for race 2 among the top guys. I mean, top 10 in race 1, reversed for race 2, 10th and 11th. That is the magic little air. If you finish 10th, amazing, you're on reverse grid pole. If you finish 11th, it's not going to look good for you. You're going to have to start 10 places behind the driver you may have only just lost out on the position by hundredths of a second to. So it's going to be important to see who can get reverse grid pole, but of course points on the board early on in the evening are crucial really, because then you can have a little bit more leeway in the second race.
Exactly that, and of course the end goal is to be consistent in both. Obviously 100% you want to win both. Not necessarily impossible. It has been a number of times where we've seen that happen, particularly on tracks that sort of promote pack racing as such, that allow those that start a little bit further back to fight their way through the field even later on in the race. Because usually what happens with reverse grid races, and it's a trap that so many top drivers fall into, is that their starts are too cautious, so much so that they'll only make a couple of places or so. By that point, 5-10 minutes into the race, the field is spread out so much that even though they are quicker, their ceiling is much lower because of that elongation of the field as such. So I think the key thing for race 2 is going to be making sure you have a nice punchy start before the field starts to obviously stretch out beyond recovery.
Yeah, and this is going to be key. I mean, it's going to be what they're thinking about and what they're trying to weigh up in their brain as they go in towards race 1. I mean, we've only got a minute left of the warm-up, and then we'll be straight into the race. But it's difficult in a championship like this. Sorry about that. Difficult in a championship like this. Try and really just be consistent. I mean, there's lots of guys around you. We've seen the championship. There's so many guys you're fighting. In a championship where you've got 2 or 3 drivers pulling out in front, you know who you're racing if you're in the battle. But with so many guys, you don't really want to be giving up a position to anybody, and you're going to fight everybody hard. So I think we're going to see quite a lot of racing action. We saw quite a lot last week at Aragon, and I don't think it's going to be any different this week.
No, definitely not. Moments away then from kickstarting the racing action this evening. 25 minutes, of course, on the clock. 5 minutes longer than what we saw over, of course, T6 Seasons 1 and Seasons 2. But, of course, Season 3, we thought would give us a little bit longer for the racing action, because there were plenty of times. Obviously, you joined in for a couple of rounds in Season 2. I'm sure you can agree that over the course of the last couple of seasons, been plenty of times where we've been like, is that it? 20 minutes already? Like, give us some more. So, of course, Rich has answered our prayers, given us 5 extra minutes, which obviously gives these guys a little bit longer to race, gives us longer to enjoy the racing, and adds a lot more variables into the mix as well. But for race 1, who are you going with then, Darragh?
God, don't put me on the spot here. I'm gonna go with Bench Farcash, race 1. I think he's gonna be able to pull himself away in the opening race, but we'll have to see how he does in race 2. It's gonna be a very different matter. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Bench Farcash.
Not a bad shout at all. Of course, Farcash surprisingly down in P11 in the standings, but then again, I suppose he has had a couple of bad lucks. I think he was driven into the first Degner at Suzuka. That put him on the back foot, of course. So, yeah, not been the most ideal start to the season for Farcash, but the most important thing is that the potential definitely has been there. You can see Farcash from Juhas Mikiewicz, and then of course behind that Christian Orban, the front 2 rows of the grid. They're all lined up ready to go. I think we're only waiting a couple of people towards the back end, then we'll see the 5 red lights come up on the screen. 25 minutes of racing action here for round number 3, season 3 of the T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship. Again, there we go, 5 red lights are on, cars are set here in Imola. 25 on the clock, and Juhas with all to prove on the front row. But what can Bench Farcash do? Can he reignite his championship campaign here today? Lights out, and we're underway here in Imola. A good start initially from Bench Farcash. I think he's actually been able to get the measure of Christian Juhas going in towards town. Well, it was a fairly long run, however, and you can actually see the Slovakian now pulling alongside, trying to go to the outside of the first chicane. Let's see who's going to be the first to reach it. Later on the brakes, though, goes the Hungarian. Martin Mikovic able to hang on to 3rd. So far, so good for the top lot, but it seems to be quite chaotic from about 6th backwards.
Yeah, it's very, very much chaotic. 2-3 wide in the background as they run their way through down towards the Villeneuve chicane. Exactly what the front guys wanted to have off of the line. Bench Farcash, fantastic start. Juhas Mikiewicz, Orban, all kind of following in suit.
And yeah, of course, everyone's just trying to work their way forward. Of course, apologies everyone. And Thacker, I believe, suffering from a couple of technical difficulties. It's been plaguing him for quite some time. Hopefully his internet will sort itself out. 24 minutes left on the clock, and well, maybe you might have to put on my voice for a little bit longer than usual. I'm sure you'll all manage. But in towards Aqua Minerale for the first time, we've got the top 5 nose to tail. Of course, Bench Farcash able to consolidate the top position, followed by Juhas Mikiewicz, Orban and Gaspar Marak. So the top 5 really unchanged. Then comes Marvin and Sven Mackenberg. Of course, all of them able to obviously manage their gaps. Bit of contact actually. I think Gaspar Marak going into the rear end. Christian Orban going into Alta.
You've got to be careful as they run through here. I mean, Variantel is a very difficult place to try and make a move. Of course, it's fast, kind of. It's not quite fast enough to really think that, oh, I can't go for the move there. It's a little bit too slow for it to be an easy place to make an overtake. You've got to be careful as you run your A3, especially in the opening lap of the opening round. You don't really want to compromise your starting position for race 2. And Farcash already trying to break the slipstream of Juhas, run their way down towards the opening corner, but they complete the first lap. A good start from the likes of Vladislavic up to Hujak Anusa as well, moving forward off the start, but the front guys there, as they were at the start of the race.
Exactly, looking at that battle for reverse grid pole though, Pavel Mukona, that could be a huge result for the Russian. Of course, again, burdened by the extra ballast to the car, but if he's able to consolidate that P10, maybe move forward a little bit and start higher up for race 2, he could still bag a decent couple of points. Remember, there's not only prizes for the championship, but there are also prizes for each individual round's aggregate mini championship as such. Obviously the points from race 1, the points from race 2 added up, and then you get standings, and then of course you get a little bit of extra money of course for that as well. So that's always a bit of a motivator for each and every single one of these drivers out there. Also into a bit of a train though. I mean, the top 2 breaking away ever so slightly, Farcash and Juhas, and then of course Mikiewicz about 2nd back. All in all, everyone just line of stand settling into this race. Is that due to a lack of overtaking opportunities or a lack of will to get the overtakes done? More people concerned with staying with the pack as opposed to battling for positions?
That's both, mainly because you don't want to spin around. You don't have an incident in the opening race, especially if you're in that top 10. You don't want to lose the points that you could conceivably get. If Bench Farkash right now spins around, is in the wall for 30 seconds and comes back out last, he's going to start wherever he finishes in this race. So he doesn't want to lose the points he currently has. And I think quite a lot of these guys, unless they really feel like they've got to get done early, people nearer the back, the likes of Mukimov, the likes of Mario Zabdir back in P21, then I think they're going to be a little bit more cautious. Talking about Mario Zabdir, I think he's quite close to the cusp. And I really apologise if my voice keeps dropping as you mentioned, Zach. But yeah, look at this. Coming down towards turn 1, just about crossing the line. This is Marvin Mackenberg going for the move on Gaspar Marak. The top 6 or 7 as they started, but I think that's about to change.
Let's have a look. Of course, the two brothers, well, no, of course, with Mackenberg there in 6th, trying to move his way up into P5. Of course, he's got the rear gunner of his brother there, of Sven, just in behind, but Marvin Mackenberg unable to consolidate that move, move his way past the current championship leader. In the background as well, of course, Vanessa Velevich there in 8th. Asperger Pitcher just in behind, of course, representing T6 with the beautiful yellow and black colouring that we've come to know and love. Still a long train, though, headed, of course, by Marak, who's remarkably slow, unsurprisingly, in race trim, of course doing his best in order to consolidate that top 5.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a bit of a gap now forming behind Christian Orban to Gaspar Marak here, a couple of seconds. I mean, it's bigger between 4th and 5th than it is between 1st and 4th, so not the best of times here for Gaspar Marak, and I think the top 4 will be looking at that and thinking that they might have to get through when it comes to race 2 and the reverse grid. But as it is, Marvin Mackenberg, he wants to make a move just before his brother Sven in behind tries to make a move on him. But this is really quite a long train, very, very tightly packed, all the way down to in P11, and he's going to want to get through on Pavel Makonin quite quickly because he doesn't want to be waiting to try and get a P10 for the end.
Exactly. He's going to be looking to get it as soon as possible. Change for the lead potentially as well. Ben Farkash forced to go defensive, going into Ravat. So it's the Slovakian looking to go to the outside, but squirmy is the Hungarian, but able to keep his composure. The up and under potential there for Juhász, but I think his best option is going to be to wait for the slipstream down this long pitch straight towards the Tamburello.
Yeah, let's see as they run down, as Juhász will try and use the slipstream down into his opening corner. Mickiewicz, Orban in behind as well. They'll pick up any scraps if this battle comes to life quite significantly, but let's see, the Slovakian driver in behind Farkash. I think he's just going to sit in for now. Yeah, down in towards Tamburello. Nothing doing there for Juhász. He's not quite enough. The slipstream is not quite powerful enough from that far back, and I think he's going to have to try and be a little bit sneaky, maybe try and put Farkash off a line to make the move for the lead.
Yeah, exactly. Just put him off and try and discourage him to take his normal racing line, put him under a little bit of pressure. That psychological game can be huge, but now, of course, he is sandwiched. Of course, it's Slovakian meat in Hungarian bread, looking for a very bold move into Tosa, and it's actually burdened him because Mate Mickiewicz picked his way through very nicely in the Williams Esports Chill Blast livery, picked his way past into 2nd place, and it's now a Hungarian 1-2. Forget the bread, and they're leading the way very firmly. That was a huge move from Mickiewicz. Great reactions, of course. Juhász, he had it coming for such a late dive going into Tosa.
Yeah, and I mean, looking around for the move. Looking around for the move there, it's going to be interesting just to see if Juhász can try and come back through. I mean, Christian Orban is going to be keen for Juhász to try and get that position back quickly because it might be into a bit of a mistake here. But Slovakian still on the back of Mickiewicz and Farkash. I mean, he'll be pleased to see, I think, Mickiewicz try and get through, because if these two fight, you can get further in front.
Exactly that. So, of course, Ben Farkash maybe going to back up Mickiewicz into Juhász just so he can bridge a bit of a gap and sort of enjoy this race all on his own. But, of course, Mickiewicz, as much as I'm sure he loves his countrymen, is not going to be too interested in letting the fight go for the lead. Juhász in the slipstream looking very fiery today, as is usual for the Slovakian. He likes to get moves done as soon as there is an opportunity to do so, into towards the Tamburello chicane. Not quite close enough under braking, but you can definitely bet your bottom dollar he's going to be looking for it, maybe into Villeneuve, maybe of course into Tosa again, but he's got to be so careful. He's treading on thin ice here because, of course, what was once a very good look for the race lead has now put him towards the back end of the podium. With Christian Orban not a million miles away, if these guys start to battle, he could go even further down. And then, oh wow, goodness me, that was up onto 2 wheels for Christian Orban, being a bit of a stunt driver today on the exit of Villeneuve. Of course, the thing is that for Juhas, is side by side here, a little bit further back, Juhas needs to be careful. He can lose time forwards and behind and be stuck at best fighting for second.
Yeah, we'll have to see what he can do, but that was, I think, remember last week we had a similar incident. I think it was Uso went up on 2 wheels, Aragon, a very similar scenario there for P4 Christian Orban. Looking at Pascal here, down in P9. On the back of Vladislav, who's had a very good start to this, and the Mackenbergs a little bit further in front. You know, at the moment for these guys, it's alright, it's kind of calm. I mean, they've got gaps back to P10, they know that they can start near the front if they go mistake at the end, but we're not quite halfway through this race, so they know that a lot can happen here, they know that quite a bit could unfold positively or negatively for them, but they just want to keep it on track. I mean, Uso are going to be trying to catch McConan here, because otherwise he's going to start from P11 as we've mentioned. But McConan, I think, is going to be content at the moment to sit in P10, realise it might be difficult to overtake, and take a pole in race 2, which he might be able to hang on with.
Exactly that. Of course, we're seeing with Gasper Rank how effective it can be to hang on to a pole, even with Ballast. Stu Neal looking to go the long way round here at Fraser Ross stance. He's battling away Kovalevsky and Mariusz Sabdi, who's had an abysmal return to T6 Motorsport, unfortunately down in 18th place. Let's see what this four-way fight is going to bring, going into, of course, turn 2, technically the first braking zone as they cross the line. 15 minutes left on the clock, side by side in the background, and you can see, I think, Santiago eventually getting involved. That's the green and black in the background. Mariusz Sabdi trying to pick his way past, nearly 3 wide going in. Stu Neal has the inside and assumes 15th place. Very nicely done.
Yeah, Stu Neal making a nice couple of moves there. I mean, this train now, he's at the head of it. Kovalevsky is going to go from his countryman Mariusz Sabdi down into the Villeneuve chicane, a little bit offline there for Kovalevsky. You can see it getting very, very out of shape in the second part of the chicane, and through dust, Mariusz Sabdi up towards Tosa. Rostos is coming through as well, but we'll look a little bit further up front with Gregor Hujek. I think this is trying to make a move on Michael Clough, who I think came together last at Aragon with the driver, and I think he lost a few positions in the streaming route because of it. But Gregor Hujek, he's going to make his way through. I mean, again, for him, he's just going to be trying to gain positions for the start of race 2, because his race is going to be with these guys for the next 45 minutes, unless he can summer up a miracle and get himself into the top 10.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot for him to move forwards, because he's got, what, from 14th to the top 10, a good couple of seconds, and a good couple of cars in the way, most importantly, that are all going to be very interested in defending their respective positions. The battle for P10, of course, is not going to be separated by too much. I mean, Charles Oyster is about 2.5 seconds back of Pavel Mikonin, so sort of capping the rest of the grid, preventing them from fighting for that all-important top 10. So Charles Oyster either needs to back up his ideas, or Victor Bernat Rubio needs to find a way past and lead the charge towards Mikonin, who should be significantly slower than those guys. Of course, he's got 15 kilos of ballast. Not entirely sure if he inherits Alessandro Ottaviani's load as well, but either way, he's definitely carrying a decent sum. Here's Victor Bernat Rubio. Speaking of course, Charles Oyster versus the Spaniard into Tamburello. He's looking to go to the outside. I don't quite think he's going to be successful on this occasion.
They're staying behind at the moment, the Spaniard, of course, moving away from his home country, from Aragon, where we were last week. Oh, further up, though, I think there's a bit of a battle unfolding here. Here we go. I think this is going to be Sven Mackenberg, and it is defending from Pascal Jean-Pret, the Swiss in P9, and Pavel Mikonin's in this one as well. Let's see up towards Tosa. It's very, very tight, but that's Mikonin up the inside of the Swiss driver, and he's up into P9. Very good move from Mikonin, and now he's going to try and have a run at Sven Mackenberg. Vladislav is through as well. Further up the field, just about in front here of Sven, as they run their way through Piratella. What triplet? I've forgotten the word. Anyway, this was 4. They're going to be fighting their way right through, and these guys are really fighting over reverse grid poles, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Quartet.
Quartet, there we go, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm good for some things, you know. Here's Sven Mackenberg, defensive anyway. Of course, going into Alta, it's fine. See, that's why we've got 2 of us, because if it was either of us just on our own, you wouldn't have this well, yeah, you wouldn't have this. You'd have something entirely different, probably significantly worse, as we constantly forget the dictionary a lot, and it's almost as if we're paid to speak words from said dictionary, and yet obviously we never remember any of them. Pavel Mikkonen, though, doing quite well there in 9th, able to consolidate a fairly decent position, of course, front row for race 2.
Yeah, they really do, but they want to be careful because they don't want the train behind that's led by Bernat Rubio to try and get ever closer. Bernat Rubio making moves. This is close. This is a moment. Oh my word, that is Christian Newhash nearly moving around at the opening meaningful corner of the lap here, trying to get his way through a Mate Mikiewicz. That was nearly absolute disaster there for the Slovakia. Mikiewicz is through. He's the one chasing up to bench Farkas. There's a big gap behind Newhash now, but that could all have come undone very, very quickly.
Yeah, it doesn't take a lot for all that hard work to very quickly unravel itself. Juhas, of course, very aggressive, very keen to get back after Ben Farkas. But the top 3 breaking away fairly comfortably from the rest of the pack. Of course, Gasper Rack up there and looking very, very strong, despite obviously the ballast that he's taken on and up there in 4th place, but still understandably a lot slower than these 3 who are very quick by themselves, let alone without any extra weight added to the car. So the top 3 breaking away very, very nicely, over halfway into this race, and Ben Farkas with each going lap, and the more Mikiewicz and Juhas battle, he's going to be licking his lips even more as he pulls away and extends that gap at the front.
He's going to be at his pace, but he's going to be maybe slightly concerned about the 2 behind him. Similar pace, going to be difficult to get through at the start of race 2. Might need a very good launch off the line to help him out, but 10 minutes to go in race 1. So not too much longer. You're thinking maybe 5, possibly 6 laps left of this race as we look now back towards this battle over P4. Christian Orban getting close to the back of Mackenberg, who's close to the back of Mrak here. I think it looks very tricky. Mackenberg not with the best line through Ravazza 1, but you know, Orban can't really capitalise because he gets a good enough exit out of Ravazza 2 to get the run towards the opening corner. But that train behind, which is led by Vladislavic, are getting close now. They're getting ever closer. They're trying to connect themselves to the back of this train for 4th.
They are, and of course the more these guys battle, the closer they are going to get once again side by side. Christian Juhas finds his way past Mate Mikiewicz side by side through, of course, the Tamburello chicane now towards Villeneuve. Is the Hungarian going to launch any sort of a counter-attack, or do they say, you know what, no? Because obviously Juhas is never going to settle down. Maybe Mate Mikiewicz can be sort of the bigger driver here, settle down and try and go for the lead. However, that's not going to be going any way into Tosa. Mate Mikiewicz trying to go the long way around, gets the up and under potentially. Is there going to be any overlap on that run up towards Piratella?
Let's see, Mate Mikiewicz, oh, it's just slotting in behind Juhas here. It's so close, but he's not. Booster up 3 places further back in the field. Mate Mikiewicz trying to find his way through, but he can't quite do it. We've got 8 minutes, just under 9 minutes really to go. And Ben Farkas, he is really starting to stretch his legs now.
He is, he's loving life out in front, and with each obviously battle that passes by, he's just getting bigger and bigger. Is Ben Farkas out in front, so looking very, very strong. Is the Hungarian, of course, starting from pole and leading consistently since. Of course, Juhas, Mikiewicz not doing any of themselves any favours really with, of course, the battling. Been awesome to watch, but not really getting them anywhere in terms of the overall race, because both of these have had the pace to go and contest with Ben Farkas. It's just that Farkas has been so much more consistent and a lot cleverer with how he's dealt with this race. Back here, though, is Shores Oyster versus Gregor Hujek and, of course, Victor Bernat Rubio in the fight for 11th, 12th and 13th. Long way back off the top 10. So they're basically fighting for who starts highest in race 2.
Yeah, they are really. I mean, they're just going to be trying to make their way through because this is their fight for race 2, really. I mean, they're not going to start any further back because they are on top of each other, running down towards the opening corner. But Hujek would love to have the likes of Farkas running down towards the opening corner here, though. The Slovenian outside line going to be difficult at Tamburello. Can he make it stick? He's going to stick it around the outside. Is he going to be able to make it work here? Bouncing across the curbs on the inside of both drivers as they run their way through, but I think just about it's going to be Usa holding him off. How long here?
We'll find out. Ducking and diving, searching for the gap. Of course, Shores Oyster looking very intimidating. but of course in that very sleek all-black livery, but unfortunately at the moment seems to be the one being intimidated by the two behind him. Of course, Gregor Hudek hunting, looking for the space. Of course, Bernat Rubio not a million miles away either. Then, of course, you've got Michael Clough as well, up 2 places into 14th. Clough to back 3 more into the final 7 minutes of this race.
We'll have to see if he can try and do it here. I mean, look at Bernat Rubio. He's just lurking there, isn't he? He's just sitting in behind, trying to pick his way through if these two come together. And even Michael Clough, not too far back, is going to quickly join this battle. A little bit out of shape there is Gregor Hudek as they run up towards the outer. Let's see, maybe looking for an inside line, maybe looking for an inside line. Oh, he thinks about it, he's not going to go for it, but look at this around the outside. Bernat Rubio, it becomes the inside, he tried it, it's not quite come off, and he's looking very racing.
Wow, what an almost move that was. Of course, didn't quite complete it, but Bernat Rubio, wow, that was a good attempt at the very least, mate. Very, very strong pursuit, and of course showcasing the level of respect each of these drivers have, because most other people would have firmly been off the road / in the barrier, probably with a few extra instant points and of course a slowdown to go with it. But great for Hudek to give him the space, and all 4 of them still firmly in contention. Christian Newhash closing the gap to Ben Farkash, but with less than 6 minutes left to go, are we going to see another fight for the lead? Maybe we're going to see another fight for P11 going into the Tamburello. You can see the Dutchman defending partially going into turn at number 2. Hudek trying to find the up and under. No way through for now. Of course, hammering that pressure on.
Trying his best line as they run down towards the Villeneuve here, but can he quite find his way through? We'll have to see. Not here, that's for sure. The time is ticking away though, 5.5 minutes left of this race, plus the rest of the lap that they are on. And Gregor Hudek looking for the move, not quite able to go for it. But all whilst Hudek is this close to Seb Usa, Bernat Rubio is this close on the back of Gregor Hudek, or he was a second ago. He's dropped back a little bit, a couple of tenths in that opening sector. I mean, there's some really, really good racing going on here. It sets up a good picture for race 2, I should say. And the likes of John Brett and Pavel McConan, they're going to be starting from the front, but Ben Farkash, Juhas, Mikiewicz, they're going to be trying to make their way through. These some moves like we've seen tried from Bernat Rubio down to the very anti-alto, really like in for a treat.
Yeah, we very much are. Of course, it'll be interesting to see how Ben Farkash finds himself carving his way forwards in these races. Juhas as well, how aggressive he's going to be now. He's starting once again behind Matej Mikiewicz. Of course, we're following this fight. This is beautiful stuff. Of course, Vadas Lavlovic, followed by Sven Mackenberg, Pavel Mikonin, of course, Pascal Jean-Petru round off the top 10 in this race. Looking very strong going into what will be the final 3 laps of it. Sven Mackenberg, of course, looking to find a way up another place in this race. To be fair, a well-needed one. He's had a tough run of bad luck, not quite been able to finish in the top 10 on every occasion, although having the potential to do so, today could be a good opportunity to bag some good points.
Really good. We'll have to see if he can just about get this car to the end. But let's have a look at this. This is going to be Bernat Rubio trying to make his way through, and it's going to be close with Hudek and Usa down in towards the opening corner. But I think it's going to be Hudek, and then it might be Bernat Rubio around the outside second part of the Tamburello, and he's made it stick. And Seb Usa, the Dutch driver, he's slipping back down the field, and he won't like to see that at all. At least he's not losing big positions in terms of race 2's grid. But Bernat Rubio, he's now going to be looking at Gregor Hudek, but not a great line. Bit of an under hit from the Dutch driver into the gravel. Bit of contact. Oh, and that is not the line. And Usa might lose out to Clough here, but just about gets out in front on track.
Yeah, Schulz also held well there. I think the important thing there was to not panic, keep his composure, don't brake. Also, most importantly, just lift off the throttle, let the car bring it back onto circuit, and try and chill. The moment you panic is the moment that incident could have gotten very, very bad indeed. Of course, not great from, of course, both drivers to allow that to happen. Who's that off the road? I think that is actually Pascal Jean-Pierre, who's had issues going into Aqua Minerale.
Ideal for him, and it means that this battle for P10 I was going to say that this battle for P10 here now between Bernat Rubio and Usa and even Clough here is going to be for reverse grid pole all of a sudden. So Hudek, you know, Christmas has come early for him. Maybe it's his birthday soon, but he might now start from reverse grid pole when before that looked a long way on.
And that's why you've got to be in it to win it. Again, P11, that's not a million miles away from being in a top position. Here's the fight for second, by the way. Mate Mikovic pulls out to the right-hand side of the circuit, going to the outside of the Tamburello chicane, not quite able to find the way through. Maybe trying to set up the double, triple up and under as they run their way through this quick flick to the left. Of course, the hope for the win is out of the window, but the Hungarian still searching for P2 nonetheless, bagging a couple of extra points. Of course, slightly tighter line going into Villeneuve, carrying a little bit more speed. Is he close enough to launch a move? He's certainly eyeing it up and showing his intentions. He wants that second place.
Really does, and time is ticking away. It's this lap and one more, I do believe, as we run up. Bench Farkas, he's in the distance. Mate Mikovic knows that. He wants to get back on Christian Juhász to try and pick up those points for his championship challenge, but he's not got much time left. He's going to have to make it stick and soon, but he can't make any mistakes, because as we've seen from Pascal Jean-Pret, he's gone from maybe starting P2, maybe even P1 in this in race 2, to starting in P23, and he can't really afford the same kind of error.
Doesn't take a lot, and yeah, one small mistake can be drastic, but it has meant good news for Hujek Benaribia Oyster, as we said, and again shows that you have to be in it to win. Being P11, P12, all it takes is one or two drivers' races to go sour, and you are straight away hugely benefiting from it, and your evening just flips on its head drastically, and like that it can go from hopeless to very, very much hopeful. On to the final lap of race 1. Ben Farkas, as long as he keeps it nice and clean, is looking solid for a victory here today. Christian Juhász versus Mate Mikovic. This one is a little bit more in the unknown. Yeah,
we're not really sure he's going to come out on top in this one, but Mikovic is not close enough to make a move down this turn when it doesn't seem, so it may not be on for the Hungarian driver, but he's closing down into turn 1 in that slipstream. Going to have to go to the outside line in the Tamburello. It's not going to work out for him. Maybe up and under, but he's not got the best run through the first part. Sitting behind Bench Farkas. He's driven away in this race. He's now 3 seconds in the lead of this one, and he's got, I mean, nearly 20 seconds back to whoever will be on reverse grid pole.
Yeah, it's been sensational stuff for him, driven phenomenally. Here's side-by-side Christian Orban putting some pressure on to Marvin Mackenberg. Mackenberg, of course, trying to find his way into the top 5. Orban not really too keen as to let that happen. Into Tosa for the final time. The up and under definitely going to be an attempt from the German. He gets it. Has he put his foot to the floor, though, as they rise their way up the hill towards Piratella? Also side-by-side further in the background, you can see in towards Piratella. It's the Chill Blast livery, of course, of Mikovic that goes the long way round in towards Aqua Minerali, though. Juhász has got the measure ahead. He tries to squeeze the Hungarian off, and Juhász stays, of course, up there in second place.
It was tight, wasn't it? It was very tight, very close racing, but just about coming out over on top over Mate Mikovic, but Mate Mikovic will be able to start in front if he can't quite find it down into the ruts of 1 and 2. But as they bump their way over the Marianti Alta, they got the best of exits, and Juhász has this in the bag now.
Let's see. Of course, we'll also keep an eye out for Ben Farkas across the line to tick off a victory here today at Imola. Of course, from pole position, he's dominated 3.5 seconds clear of the field. The Hungarian has driven phenomenally. Race 1, week 3 of the T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship here in Imola goes the way of Ben Farkas. He weaves his way across the line. He's got time to spare as he awaits the finish line, crosses the checkered flag. Victorious is Christian Juhász from Mate Mikovic as they started in qualifying, but what a battle it was all the way to the end. Of course, Gasparak P4 despite carrying some ballast. Good points for his championship and a good way to potentially consolidate that P1. Marvin Mackenberg rounds off the top 5, a sensational result for the, of course, for the German. Christian Orban, though, down in P6. Vanislavljevic, P7, of course, will run your way through the entirety of the finishing order in just a second. But my, oh my, what a race 2 we've got in store for us coming up.
Yeah, and I can't wait for it, really. I mean, we've got so many good little storylines to try and work through. I mean, you know, Hujek, he's given a very, very nice race in the second half to work his way up to P10. And get reverse grid pole. We'll have to see how he can get away. The likes of Pavel Makoni and Sven Mackenberg, how can they do? Marvin Mackenberg again, P5, showing his consistency in that cup, and he'll start P6, and he won't get a podium again.
Exactly that. Ben Farkas then victorious ahead of Juhász and Mikovic, the podium. Then comes Gasparak and Marvin Mackenberg, the top 5 ahead of Christian Orban and Vanislavljevic in 7th. Sven Mackenberg makes it a double Mackenberg at top 10 ahead of Pavel Mukonin and Gregor Hujek, who'll make up the front row for race 2. Jules Oyster, close, not quite close enough in the end with his battle, but he didn't quite know what was at stake at the time. Michael Clough, Kovalevsky, Neal and Rostar's the top 15 ahead of Trebek and Zavdir. His return, not really much to write home about. Santiago from Mukumov up there in P19. Fabio Gil, Eskivoski, Banat Rubio, DNF in the end for him. Pascal Champietra as well, another one, as well as Opicic, the 24th and final driver. Myself, Zach Sweeney, Darragh Thacker alongside me in the commentary. We'll step aside for just a moment, but don't go anywhere. Race 2 coming up. Welcome back then, ladies and gentlemen. Race 2 is upon us, of course, for week 3 of season 3 of the T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship. My name's Zach Sweeney. Darragh Thacker is still alongside me in the commentary booth as we just witnessed a great race, of course, one to remember here, of course, in Imola. The formation is about to get started. The grid is already set, of course, the top 10 reversed for the initial moment of race 1. Of course, it will probably come at us very, very quickly. We'll cut to the grid and nearly the race will immediately start. So, awaiting the 5 red lights, Imola race 2 will be underway. But what can Ben Farkas do? Christian Juhasz, Matin Mikovic, the top 3 of race 1, will they be able to carve their way forwards? Will they be able to take to another top step, or will they languish towards the back end of the top 10? find out in due course. Of course, thank you to everyone that's watching along at home on the T6 Motorsport YouTube channel. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications, as well as checking out the T6 socials to stay up to date with everything that comes your way. You'll see standings and clips of highlights and this, that, and the other. Also, massive thank you to each and every single one of our sponsors as well, of course, for making all of this possible. Of course, we'll bring Darragh in as soon as the race is underway. Still in the formation stage, still waiting for the grid to be set. There you can see the cars are ready. 5 red lights are on. 25 minutes back onto the clock. Let's see what race 2 has got in store for us. Of course, it's Gregor Hujek on pole position with Pavel Mukkonen alongside. Let's see what they've got on that run in towards turn number 2. Once again, underway here in Imola. Hujek gets away really, really nicely, and immediately the Russian tucking in to the slipstream does not want to miss out at all. You can see the background, I think, of Alisavljevic trying to make some quick moves on Christian Orban. So far, so clean. Let's see who's going to be the bravest one on the brakes going into turn at number 2, the first braking zone of the circuit. Alisavljevic trying to go the long way round Christian Orban, but no way through for him. Darragh, clean start from the front.
Jack, very, very well done off of the line, and he's going to try and scarper away as quickly as he possibly can to try and nullify the guys like Bench Farkash, who might be coming through the field at quite a rate of knots. But Hujek, got to be careful not to lose positions early on here through the Villeneuve chicane up towards Tozer. You can see everybody filing through 1-2 wide as they run up the hill towards this tight left-hander at turn 7 at Tozer. But it's a great start for Gregor Hujek, and everyone filing through. No big dramas so far, but there's going to be guys further looking to move here.
Exactly, they're going to be wanting to get off to a quick, punchy, and very ready start here with, of course, race 2 upon us. Oplicic already DNFing, I think, maybe suffering a couple of issues. Into maybe go for 1, but 2 contact with the championship leader. Of course, Bench Farkash takes the runoff area thanks to the late dive. Of course, Shaw was also there as well, teaching on the edge of the top 10. Bench Farkash under pressure as they run the way towards Variante Alta. Juhas, though, doesn't hesitate to go for a move, doesn't hesitate to go for a gap. Unfortunately, a bit more than he can chew.
Yeah, and Bench Farkash will be very, very pleased to be ahead of Juhas now. It's one of his main rivals in terms of pure outpace this evening, and to get through on him early on in the opening lap is going to be absolutely ideal for him. He's got Gasper Morat, the next driver in front of him, and you'd have to say with every driver in the clears, you'd argue that it becomes a little bit easier to overtake the car in front because he had a little bit more pace than them in race 1, so he'll have that in the back of his mind. But not too many changes of positions apart from Pascal Jean-Pretre at the back there, up 5 early on in this race, really to rectify his result in race 1, which saw him not even finish the race and not see the flag. But Farkash, he's under so much pressure here.
He is side by side as well. Bench Farkash trying to put some pressure onto Gasper Morat the long way around at the Tamburello chicane. What a move that is from the Hungarian. Juhas wants to slice the pie as well. Of course, Morat suffering from success in the form of that 25 kilograms of extra ballast. He is stuck, of course, with a much heavier car compared to those around him, and a very, very punchy Christian Juhas putting some pressure on through the Villeneuve chicane in towards Tozer. Is the Slovakian going to be looking for the gap? He's, of course, very punchy on the brakes in towards Tozer. Not quite close enough on this occasion, but he needs to get through as soon as possible, really, because he can see his target, Bench Farkash, pulling that gap away and potentially, in the course of the next couple of laps, joining Mate Mikovic on the back of that lead train.
Yes, and that's what he's got to be careful of. But, I mean, Bench Farkash, he is doing exactly what he needs to be doing. What a move it was on Gasper Morat. I mean, I was saying about aim to defend, but in actual fact, he was going for the move around the outside. He made it stick in a very, very impressive manner, but no one has really been allowed to get away the field. All 23 cars, we're nearly in lap 2, split by just about 10 seconds. The gaps are minute, and Juhas has to be careful here because Seb Usa is looking very racy on the back of him down into Variante Alta. We saw a few drivers trying on the outside down there, and now Usa's doing this time. Hujek not getting away from Mikonen, Mackenberg, Orban. They are really keeping him honest early on here, and it's giving Bench Farkash a chance to try and close in as well and make those moves if he can.
Exactly that. Of course, the Hungarian will be wanting that pack to stay as close as possible for as long as possible. It's a long, long train all the way back, I believe, yeah, to P9. Then the biggest gap is a second back to Juhas, who I believe is under a bit of pressure from the sleek black of Shores Oysa in P11. Christian Orban in 4th, eyeing up that podium. Sven Mackenberg able to consolidate a good start from 3rd. Fight for the lead, potentially Pavel Mukkonen searching for the gap. He's very punchy in these second races. It's exactly what happened last week at Aragon. He was able to get ahead sooner enough that there wasn't really much contest by the end of it. I'm hoping, of course, well, he's going to be hoping for him that that's going to be a similar case today, that he can emulate that, ideally before the likes of Farkash and Juhas get back on the scene.
As we run our way through, only 5 minutes gone in this race of race 2, but we see here going up the hill, Alpha McConan, he's so close towards Piratella on Gregor Hujek. He's not going to be close enough to make a move, but just in behind as well, Sven Mackenberg having to defend from Christian Orban as he tries to run his way through, maybe looking for it into Aqua Morali, but that is probably the most dangerous place to make an overtake around this Imola circuit, and he will stick in behind for now. But oh, that's deep. That's Vladislavievich going very, very deep, and through goes Marvin Mackenberg, and I think Mikiewicz might have a go as well.
Yeah, let's have a look into Alta. Of course, quite a heavy braking zone, but not the best of corners to be going for do or die moves. Vladislavievich now behind Matej Mikiewicz, Marvin Mackenberg leading that slight train. Ben Farkash right there in the mix. Let's see if he's able to put any pressure onto the Serbian down the hill in towards, of course, Ravazza 1. Let's see, Ben Farkash, is he brave enough on the brakes? He definitely closes the gap, has a bit of a look, locks the rear sideways in, able to keep the car under wraps. Vladislavievich with a very firm near miss there. Ben Farkash nearly went, barreling, steaming into the rear end.
It was nearly very dangerous, but in the end, it just about saved. We see Vladislavievich now. If no man's land really, Matej Mikiewicz, driver in front, is the one going for the move here on Marvin Mackenberg. Inside line, he's going to be trying here. Can he make his 3rd position in this race? He started back in P8, looking to get back up into P5, bouncing there. Is Marvin Mackenberg inside line over Matej Mikiewicz, the Hungarian driver. It's going to become the inside line for the first part of the Villeneuve chicane, but it can get tight if you keep it in for the second part. Mikiewicz, though, he has it done. He's got P5, and now we can try and chase after the top.
Off the road in the background, who's that? Of course, Vladislavievich on the outside of Tosa. Let's see what the Serbian can do up the hill. Also in the background, I think Christian Juhas trying to move his way past Kasper Mrak in towards Piratella. Vladislavievich has the inside. Ben Farkash trying to go the long way round, door to door, bang in between the pair of them. Here comes the championship leader, potentially making it 3 wide on the run in towards Aqua Minerali. Christian Juhas as well into the mix. He's trying to go the long way round. Vladislavievich keeps 7th place. Farkash trying to keep 8th as well. Juhas versus Mrak as well in the background. You can see, of course, the Slovakian goes off the road, rejoins still just about side by side with Kasper Mrak.
Yeah, what a little battle this is out to be as they run into the Variante Alta. Mrak still looking for the move. Got to be careful though. Juhas in behind. Michael Clough has promoted himself to P11 in all that. I think that's helped by his trip into the gravel. But I mean, this race is really turning into. We hoped it would be with quite a tightly packed field.
Still keeping it nice and close. Again, apologies for Darragh's slight technical issues. Of course, I have made him make sure that he buys an Ethernet cable in the coming moments. Not to Animal Broadcast or anything, but I'm going to Animal Broadcast because that's just what we do. Kasper Mrak there, P9, still with some intense action out there on circuit. Tamburello through the left, then the right, then the left again here as they run their way the short run towards Villeneuve. Nose to tail, still the entirety of the field. Hujek versus Mukonen as well, not separated by too much. Sven Mackenberg firmly in the mix. And that's the thing, these faster guys, of course, they all want to be the one to lead the charge and be the first one to capitalise off anything going wrong. But in doing so, they're actually their own burden. They're slowing themselves down, so much so that the gap between Mikiewicz and Orban is now about 1.5 seconds, give or take a couple of tenths of a second. And that's purely on these guys from battling too hard.
It is on these guys, and yeah, for my internet, I'm doing my best to try and fix it. But yeah, they've got to really be smart with how they work this in this race. They've got to be smart about how they make their moves. Of course, time running out, and I say running out, we're not quite halfway through, but with every passing lap, you know, the opportunities reduce. There's less chance to try and make these moves stick. Marvin Mackenberg finished P5, started P6. Looking to get back into the top 5 once again. Mikiewicz did get through on him, and he's got to be careful from the likes of Vladislavievich behind. But he's just trying to keep those points rolling. As you mentioned earlier on in the evening, I mean, even though he's not got a podium, up in P5 for the championship, it just shows he is getting the points where he needs to, just keeping the ball rolling, getting P4, 5, 6, 7s here and there, and it is him in that championship hunt. He might not be getting the headline results just yet, but as he sits now, it's coming along nicely for him for the championship.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Still with a long way of the season left to go. Of course, we're here in Imola. Plenty more races to come. Of course, touring Motegi in a week's time. Spa to round off the first half of the championship. Break week, we're back for Silverstone, then to the Slovakia ring, Bathurst, Sepang, and the Nordschleife to round off the season. Juháš versus Mrak once again into Tamburello. Of course, once again, it's Mrak that's able to keep the Slovakian at bay through the left. Once again, Juháš still probably very, very frustrated to still be looking at the rear end of that navy blue car in towards Villeneuve. Still no way through. Juháš, as desperate and as aggressive of a driver as he is, you'd have thought it made a way through by now. There we go, the duck and the dive, the old Juháš dummy to the inside of Tosa, nicely done. Finally finds a way through, and well, definitely first try. Unless, well, it definitely wasn't first try, but I'm sure he'll be trying to convince himself that it was. It took him far too long to do that move.
Yeah, and he'll be annoyed about that, and that'll be playing into his mind as they run their way down in towards the Vante Alta. Bench Farkas here, he's right on the back of the Serbian, Vladislavic, going to try and find his way through. He's very, very close, nearly pushing the Serbian through. But once he gets past Vladislavic, a little bit of a gap, about a second up to the next train. But that next train, I mean, I say train, it's the next couple of cars. It's Mackenberg and Mikiewicz, but then it's the train for the lead. The top four, less than a second in it. I mean, it is very, very tight and compact, and don't rule out a move for the front in the closing stages.
Exactly that. 13 minutes 51 on the clock here for race 2, week 3. It's Farkas in 8th. Wood again wanted to make more progress early on than what he is currently making. Him and Juháš really stalled in this fight, of course, with the tank that is Vladislavic, that will always bring up in defence. I always think back to Zandvoort of season 1, I believe, where he was just a wall. Farkas even have to take off the road in order to find a gap. That gap very quickly closed. He's sideways going into the braking zone here at the Tamburello chicane. Vladislavic not having any of it. Farkas, of course, with Juháš and Mrak just in behind, about a second back. Mrak trying to actually launch a counter-attack on Juháš, and that is the last thing the Slovakian wants, is to have all of that hard work very quickly undone, because the Slovenian wanted a little quick of a little bit of a counter-attack that found his way back through. Then Juháš will have to do it all over again.
Yeah, he's one underneath that at this stage of the race. Is Bench Farkas trying to set up Vladislavic here as they run their way through Tosa up towards Piratella. Looks like Farkas is going to try and have his man here. Inside line, a little bit of door banging there as they run up towards Piratella. Can he get enough of his car alongside to merit some room? He does, but he's not close enough to make a move here, so he just about has to sit in behind. But he is trying everything he can. He's looking here, healing there, and will eventually, you'd have thought, make the move. But, I mean, he's got to do it. Vladislavic's doing an incredible defensive job at the moment, but not the best run through the Variante Alta.
Absolutely not. And let's see, that could well put him under pressure from Farkas, who's going to stay in the slipstream as long as possible. Look to go to the outside, but it's really a deception because he's trying to set up the switchback. Doesn't quite manage to do it. Vladislavic parking it exactly where he needs to. With each passing lap, though, that gap to Marvin Mackenberg is going to grow and grow and grow, and allow the likes of Gregor Hujek and Pavel Mukonin to continue to battle for that race lead. The top four not separated by any more than a couple of tenths each. Of course, then you get back to this battle, which is exactly the same, however, separated and detached from that lead fight. Mate Mikiewicz and, of course, Christian Orban are at the back end of it. The Hungarian would like to make some inroads towards that, but the top four, I think very cleverly, not doing much.
No, I mean, I think Orban and Orban in particularly, I think he might just be biding his time possibly, but then again, you'd argue that he's not, because he's got to make 3 positions if he wants to win here. And we'll have to see. But we'll have to just, we've got 11 minutes left of this race, and he's just lurking, isn't he? I said it before about another couple of drivers, but the likes of Orban just sitting in behind, waiting for his chance. I mean, Sven Mackenberg, Pavel Mukonin, if they start going at it, Christian Orban is right there to make it work for himself. But Gregor Hujek doing a very, very good job at the moment. I mean, if he can try and, well, he snuck P10 in race 1, it's fair to say, just about got in there, helped by Jean Pretre not finishing the race. If he can get a win, it'd be fantastic for him.
Exactly that. Huge assistance, of course, for him in the championship, and of course great capitalisation on the reverse grid running. Less than half distance left to go in this race, and plenty more action still to come. However, for Hujek, Pavel Mukkonen and Sven Mackenberger very quickly there to dethrone him side by side. Juhas getting a front row seat to Farkas once again to the outside of Vasiljevic. Of course, the Serbian is going to try and hold firm on the inside, but Benz Farkas catapults himself through. Nicely done from the black and red machine, who now picks his way past into 7th place in this race. Of course, you've got Gasper Rak and Christian Juhas as well, trying to immediately capitalise on the vulnerability. Benz Farkas, he's not quite in the clear just yet. Defensive going into Ravazza. Christian Juhas searching for the gap, but not quite able to find it. That was an important move for Farkas. Now he needs to make sure he can get away.
Get away he really does need to do. I mean, Farkas, look at him trying to break the toe as they run down to the spinning corner, and there's going to be Vladislavic just sitting in behind, gaining all the time. It's like a toe, well, it is a toe attached to his front of his car, just about gaining by every single metre, but he's not getting enough. Bench Farkas has P7. They run in towards the opening chicane down Borello, and now he can pull. He has to pull hard, he has to pull fast. He's got 3.5 seconds to catch on Marvin Mackenberg. There's a bigger gap between himself and Mackenberg in 6th, and the rest between 6th and the leader Hujek, so a lot of work to do, but if he gets there, he's going to have to make moves quickly.
Yeah, and time definitely not on his side. It's taken him over half the race just to breach clear. There is a huge send from Rak on the inside of Juhas. That was very cutthroat, and of course these guys being merciless in their attacks and their defences. Of course, Rak not waiting around, wanting to capitalise on each and every single point that he can get his hands on. No way through on that particular occasion though, and what a battle this is between some of the greats. Still the top 4, Hujek from Mukkonen, Mackenberg and Orban at 1, 2, 3 and 4. Them all just sort of at a stalemate, but it's done them a lot of good. If they were to battle from lap 1, this race would be very different. Farkas would be firmly in the mix, potentially already leading by now. The fact these guys are leaving it so late to actually battle has actually helped them out so much so that, of course, probably for them, at worst, the worst they can finish is 4th, and all of them are doing their best job to keep themselves in contention for, at best, coming out on top.
They are, but let's see. I mean, 8 minutes left of this race. 4 laps. We might. Well, I think we're going to sneak a 50. With 5 laps to go. Pavel Mukkonen, he's as close as he's ever been to Hujek, but he's never been able to go for that move. He's been sitting about that 2/10 mark all race long, which is, nearly 20 minutes now. But he might be going for it here. He's getting closer. Is he going to get Mukkonen? No. He's sitting by, he must be waiting here, the Russian driver, because he has enough speed to look for a move, but he's not quite doing it yet. Maybe trying to line up for the final lap or two, but sitting in behind for now. You can see Hujek is aware of that little bit of a defensive line down in towards the Villeneuve chicane. But as they run, it's difficult. I mean, Sven Mackenberg and Christian Orban here, they're just trying to wait for a moment. A moment isn't seeming to come yet.
He hasn't, and yeah, for whatever reason, I think everyone's just putting the car exactly where it needs to be. Also, I don't think they're overly desperate to be going for those moves. In a couple of laps time, maybe we'll see that ramped up a little bit, a couple of notches, just to sort of motivate them to actually start going for these moves. Right now, they've got time. They're just bridging that gap away from the rest of the pack. But I'd say now, actually, they're fairly secure. They probably could afford to at least give it a good go. Pavel Mukkonen, of course, understandably a little bit slower due to an extra 15 kilograms of ballast added to his car, so he's going to be a little bit slower than those around him. However, still no excuse, he's still perfectly capable and within his right to go for the win.
We absolutely will have to see if he can, because of course, with every partial lap, he's sitting in behind the battle, but he's got to take the opportunity. But the laps are ticking down, the seconds are ticking down. He needs to make a move, or at least attempt it soon. We've seen quite a few drivers, the likes of Farkas, Rak, they've gone for it, but they've not been able to really finish it quickly. It's taken them a lap to seal the move, and he can't afford to try and go for it final lap, and it doesn't quite come off, and he needs a little bit more time, so he just needs to try and line it up here. In behind, I mean, the likes of Mikiewicz and Mackenberg, they get a little bit closer. Farkas closing in as well. Full credit to the likes of Mariusz Zabdir, up 6 from P17 in this race, and Pascal Jean-Prech, who started P23 up to P13, and he's got through half the field, so full credit to him. It just shows how much pace he had, even with that crash in race 1.
Exactly, able to push his way forward very, very nicely. Also, talking of great races and, of course, good defenders, you might have noticed Nenad Vladislav down in P20. Of course, a couple of laps ago did notice his name drop down. Of course, it was so hectic we couldn't actually talk about it, but for whatever reason, dropped down to P20 and firmly out of the running for this race. 5.5 minutes left to go. The final stages of race 2. Here in Imola, Christian Orban on the back of Sven Mackenberg, trying to go for the podium. Of course, they've got Mate Mikovic and also soon to be Marvin Mackenberg, slowly but surely closing in. We could well see a 6-way fight for the lead in a couple of laps' time.
Yeah, we could see quite a lot of action going on in the next moments here. I mean, 5 minutes left on the clock. It really is disappearing in front of our eyes here. But look at Mario Sabdin now. Good race for him so far, trying to pick up P11. That's probably going to be his ceiling here, because Michael Clough is a long way up the road, nearly 5 seconds. So realistically, this could be as high as Mario Sabdir can get in this race. P11 wouldn't be a shameful result after a very poor qualifying. He's worked his way through the field nicely in race 1 and 2.
Exactly that. Let's see, Zabdir. I mean, he's a fantastic driver. There's no doubt about that. Of course, finishing runner-up to Lloyd Biddulph on both occasions in seasons 1 and season 2. And yeah, for whatever reason, season 3, whether it's higher competition or whatever, he's just not quite been at the same level. A small mistake there going into the first regatta, just getting a little bit sideways as he's fighting with Shores Oyster. I mean, this race has been definitely reminiscent of the Marius Abda that we know and love. But the evening as a whole, the points that he's going to score do not reflect how good of a driver that he's been, how good of a recovery this has been in race 2. He's going to eye up that move for P11. Of course, Shores Oyster understandably going to be going defensive. The pole trying to go the long way around. He's not quite brave enough on the brakes. Probably about 3 laps left to go. Big switch of oversteer at the apex. Yeah, just a shame to see, really. It'd be nice to obviously see at least one round where Zabd is fighting at the front once again.
Yeah, it would. I mean, he's got such pedigree, doesn't he? In race room, both in ranked events and in leagues such as, or in events such as this, the T6 Motorsport Touring Championship. But he's just going to make these moves stick now. I mean, he won't be thinking about how good he's been over the last year in all events on this platform, but he'll be thinking about trying to make his way through for P11 here on Seb Usa, the Dutch driver, who's doing a good defensive drive so far, and it's allowing Pascal Jean-Pret. Look how close he's got this. However, he's just rocked up to the back of this battle and said, yeah, well, I'm going to have a look at P11 if you won't, Marius, so you better get a move on. But down in towards Aqua Minerale, it's going to be the outside line here for Marius Sabdik. Pull this one off here, all the way around the outside. No, he's not going to be able to, but it's going to put Sebusa offline here. But look at this, but I mean, he might be able to make this move here, but look at Pascal, can he come through as well?
Well, we'll find out, won't we? Pascal Jean-Pret there in the mix, P13 at the moment, no better going into Alta. What a battle this is turning itself into being onto the penultimate lap of this race, by the way. Gregor Hujek still leading Pavel Mukonin, but of course the opportunity is wearing thin, the lap count coming down, and of course that timer approaching 0, meaning the pressure is ramping up, the tension getting higher, and we'll see what kind of finale that we're in for going into the final couple laps of this race. But amazing battling all throughout. Zabbed it up to P11, of course, a long way to go to the next car to even remotely be inside contention for the top 10. However, for Clough, really good result to be up there in 10th place. 2 minutes on the clock. Here comes Pascal.
Comes Pascal indeed, down in towards turn 1. Can he make the move stick here? It doesn't look like he will be able to. And no, he's going to have to sit behind, try and line it up somewhere else. But the pace he's shown all the way through this race, do not count him out for a move for the win here. I mean, he's got 2 laps to do it. One more trip to the Tamburello, but as we've seen, you can make moves around the rest of the track here, and he's going to be trying to line up Shorzusa as quickly as he can. In towards Tosin now. Is he going to look for it? No, sits in behind, might look at it for Piratella, but he's not as close as he was last lap. Drop back a little bit, maybe just trying to save himself for a last lap charge. But I mean, look at this battle for the front. The top 7, or 6 I should say, covered by a second and a half really, and it's anyone's game. If this starts to kick off, I mean, anyone could pick up a podium.
Oh, indeed. It's a very short fuse, and of course these guys rubbing together probably going to create quite a large spark going into the final lap of this race. So let's see what fireworks we've got in store for us. Christian Orban on the back of Sven Mackenberg, who is of course searching for that maiden podium of the season. Of course, will put him out of running for the Cup Championship compared to his brother, of course, of Marvin. But two Mackenbergs, that would be a staple point of the season and a great stepping stone going in to the rest of it. 37 on the clock. The, of course, imaginary white flag will be waved to signify the final lap of the race here. Hujek has done a brilliant job of defending for the last 19.5 minutes. It all comes down to this.
It does all come down to this. Can anyone make the move stick? I mean, these guys have been looking for it all race long. I mean, Hujek, Mackenberg, Orban, they've been in this order ever since the lights went out here. So surely one of them is going to try and make a move, change it up for themselves. They've been sitting, they've been waiting, they've been looking for the move. But can they pull it off? That is the big question that we're going to have answered in the next minute and a half here. But Orban looking for it, can't quite find it. But you can see he is really desperate to try and make a lunge somewhere. It's just whether he's going to be close enough to make it.
That's the thing. Of course, already about half of the way through the lap, and each corner goes past is one less opportunity for these guys to make the move. So they've got to be thinking about it in the near future as soon as possible, ideally for them. But yeah, each braking zone is another one ticked down. Final lap of the race. Hujek, though, he's been bulletproof. He's not lost his composure. No mistakes from him.
Yeah, he's been incredibly consistent. I mean, like I said before, snuck inside the top 10 in just about claiming that reverse grid pole, and he's driven incredibly well with it. He's not really had anybody challenge him. I mean, they've been close. He's been right on his rear, but not close enough to try and take the lead.
Exactly. He's still
been close, but not quite close to take the lead.
Exactly that. Into the final corner, Pavel Mukkonen I don't quite think is actually going to be close enough in the end. Gregor Hujek might well be able to hang on for it. Sven Mackenberg on the podium as well. What a sensational race. It's been tension all around here in Imola. Race number 2 is going to be a fight to the line. Flash the headlights, of course, for Pavel Mukkonen. He's delighted with second, close, but no cigar to the victory. That is going to go to Gregor Hujek, who crosses the line victorious after just sliding his way to reverse grid pole here in Imola. Sven Mackenberg rounding off the podium. What a sensational result that is for the German. Then comes Orban. Mate Mikovic, the top 5, of course, will run you through the entirety of the finishing order in just a few moments' time. Of course, the lead fight, there was a lot there to sort of have, and a lot of potential. Didn't quite come to fruition, but I think the tension was enough. The possibility that things could, at the drop of a pin, go drastically wrong was enough to keep that race very interesting.
I mean, a slide wide for Gregor Hujek anywhere, really. Could have put him right back in P4, maybe could have come in offline, Sven Mackenberg looking for the move, but it was a great race overall. But at the end, I mean, look at those gaps, nothing in it.
Not at all. Gregor Hujek then victorious. Pavel Mukkonen and Sven Mackenberg round off the podium. Great points for the Russian in the championship. Christian Orban, Mate Mikovic, the top 5 ahead of Marvin Mackenberg, who continues a good run of form, of course, still with no podium. Ben Svarkash ahead of Christian Juhasz, who will take an extra point for fastest lap on a 51.745. Very close, actually, with the Hungarian. Then comes Gasper Rank. Michael Clough rounds off the top 10. Great result for the Iron Irish driver. Marius Sabdi just in behind in P11. Then comes Shores Oyser behind. Pascal Jean-Pierre just in behind in P13. Bernat Rubio, Trebek, the top 15 ahead of Stu-Nil, Kovalevsky, Rostance, Gill and Mukimov, the top 20. Behind that, Vadislavljevic, unfortunate for him, of course, to not make it to the end where he would have wanted to be. Darragh, all in all, a very successful evening. Let's bring on Motegi.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys would be happy to get out of Imola and go down or go across the world, really, to Motegi, a long, long way away in Japan. But of course, Gregor Hujek, full credit to him, picked up all the 20 points he could in that second race. And, you know, even though he didn't have the best of qualifying performances, it just shows how important it can be to get that reverse grid pole, reverse grid P2, and we'll have to see how he does next week to see if he can keep this momentum up.
Exactly that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, of course, there you can see the Canada. Of course, Motegi in a week's time, Sparta round off the first half of the season. 2 weeks and then we're back at Silverstone, the Slovakia Ring, Bathurst, Sepang and the Nordschleife to round off Season 3. Hopefully we'll have Ottaviani back in a week's time. He cannot afford a single round on the back foot, as he's already taken his drop week, of course, by not attending today. The championship is close as ever. Who will be the one to take the top step when we return to Japan? My name is Sweeney, Darragh Thacker alongside me in the commentary booth. You've been watching the T6 Motorsport Super Touring Championship Season 3, Week 3, of course. Thank you to all of our sponsors for making this possible. The likes of Imperial Meat and Fish, Udressy Garage, Marché de Meubles, and Team Fondue. And of course, to our track sponsors as well. Everyone behind the scenes, the drivers, you guys for watching at home. Take care. We'll see you in a week's time. It's goodbye for now.